All India Radio presents Morning News. Good morning. I'm Anuja Kumar and with me is Saira Mujtaba. The headlines. Government opens up COVID-19 vaccination for all above 18 years of age. Prime Minister Narendra Modi describes vaccine as biggest weapon against corona, calls upon doctors to encourage patients to get vaccinated. Centre issues new guidelines about physical attendance of its officials in the wake of rising corona cases. 6-day lockdown imposed in the national capital. Himachal Pradesh government orders closure of all educational institutions till 1st of next month. BJP not to hold big rallies and public meetings in West Bengal to prevent the spread of coronavirus infection. Centre launches Startup India Seed Fund scheme to create a robust startup ecosystem in the country. India's ambassador to China, Vikram Misri, says tendency to sweep border situation under carpet is inadvisable. India Open Badminton Tournament postponed in the wake of sudden rise in corona cases, and Chennai Super Kings beat Rajasthan Royals by 45 runs in IPL cricket. As the number of COVID cases is on the rise again, we appeal to our listeners not to lower their guard, take all precautions, and all those above 45 years to get vaccinated without any hesitation. Stay safe and protected by following these 3 simple steps. Wear a face mask, maintain 2 gaz ki duri for social distancing, focus on hand and face hygiene. And now the news in detail. Everyone above the age of 18 years will now be administered COVID-19 vaccine from 1st of May. The centre yesterday announced a liberalized and accelerated Phase 3 strategy of COVID-19 vaccination. A decision in this regard was taken during a meeting chaired by Prime Minister Narendra Modi. In this phase, the vaccination will continue as before in Government of India vaccination centres, free of cost to the eligible population, including healthcare workers, frontline workers, and all people above 45 years of age. During this phase, vaccine manufacturers will supply 50% of their monthly released doses to the central government, and they will be free to supply the remaining 50% doses to states as well as in the open market. The manufacturers will transparently make an advance declaration of the price of the vaccine that will be available to state governments and in open market. Private hospitals will have to procure their supplies of COVID-19 vaccine exclusively from the 50% supply earmarked for other than Government of India channel. We have more from our correspondent.
During the meeting, the Prime Minister said that government has been working hard from over a year to ensure that maximum number of Indians are able to get the vaccine in the shortest possible time. He added that India is vaccinating people at the world record pace and the country will continue this with even greater momentum. Central government from its share will allocate vaccines to states and union territories based on the criteria of extent of infection and the speed of administration. All vaccination will be the part of the National Vaccination Program and mandated to follow all protocols such as being captured on CoWIN platform. Anand Kumar, AIR News, Delhi.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi has called for accelerating efforts to upgrade resources in Tier 2 and Tier 3 cities as COVID-19 pandemic is spreading rapidly in these areas. He urged doctors to connect with their colleagues working in these cities and give them online consultations to ensure that all protocols are followed correctly. Interacting with doctors yesterday across the country through video conferencing on the COVID-19 issue and vaccination progress, the Prime Minister urged them to educate people against several rumours on COVID treatment and prevention. He added that it is very important that people do not become a victim of panic in these difficult times. Mr. Modi said, for this, along with proper treatment, emphasis must also be on counselling of patients admitted in the hospitals. Mr. Modi also encouraged doctors to use telemedicine for treatment of other diseases in case there is no emergency. Mr. Modi said that vaccination is the biggest weapon in the fight against coronavirus and urged the doctors to encourage more and more patients to get vaccinated. During the meeting, the doctors shared their experiences in dealing with the COVID-19 pandemic. They also spoke about how they augmented the healthcare infrastructure.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi has urged the pharma industry to ensure seamless supply chains to keep the supply of medicines and essential medical equipment going smoothly. He also extended government support for facilities like logistics and transportation. The Prime Minister said this while interacting with leaders of pharmaceutical industry via video conferencing. The Prime Minister appreciated the crucial role of the pharma sector in the fight against the pandemic. He appreciated the way the pharma industry is working even in such trying conditions. Noting the second wave of the virus and rising number of cases, Mr. Modi commended the pharma industry for their efforts to increase production of several necessary drugs and also appreciated them for reducing the price of injections like Remdesivir. Prime Minister Modi remarked that it is because of the efforts of the pharma industry that today India is identified as the pharmacy of the world. He said essential medicines were made available to more than 150 countries around the world during the pandemic. The Department of Personnel and Training (DOPT) has issued guidelines for strict compliance by ministries and departments of the central government in the wake of the COVID-19 situation. These guidelines will come into effect immediately and will remain in force until the 30th of this month or further orders. These include physical attendance of the officers of the level of Under-Secretary or equivalent and below to be restricted to 50% of the actual strength. Secretary and head of the department may regulate the attendance of officials and may, on administrative grounds, direct more officials to attend office. A roster may be prepared accordingly. It said all officers of the level of Deputy Secretary, equivalent and above are to attend office on a regular basis. All officials who attend office shall strictly follow COVID-appropriate behavior, including wearing of mask, physical distancing, use of sanitizers, and frequent hand washing with soap and water.
Indian Railways is geared up to run oxygen express trains in response to its fight against COVID-19. Mumbai Division has built a ramp at Kalamboli Goods Yard to facilitate loading and unloading of tankers in and from flat wagons. The Ro-Ro service with 7 empty tankers departed from Kalamboli Goods Yard for Visakhapatnam Steel Plant yesterday evening. The railways transported essential commodities and kept the supply chain intact even during the lockdown last year and continue to serve the nation in times of emergencies. Upon the requests of various states for transportation of oxygen, railways explored the possibility of transportation of liquid oxygen and conducted trial runs. The Delhi government has decided to impose a 6-day-long lockdown in the national capital to contain the rapid rise of coronavirus cases. After a meeting with the Lieutenant Governor, Delhi Chief Minister Arvind Kejriwal announced that the lockdown came into effect from 10 p.m. last night, which will continue till 5 a.m. on Monday. He said people engaged in essential services and facing emergency conditions will be allowed for movement during the lockdown on producing valid documents. Essential services, food services, medical services will continue, while weddings will be allowed only with a gathering of 50 persons and funeral-related gathering will be allowed with 20 people. All private medical personnel, such as doctors and nursing staff, will be exempted on production of a valid ID card. Public transport such as Delhi Metro and public buses up to 50% of seating capacity and auto, e-rickshaws up to 2 passengers will be allowed to function. Those travelling from or going to airport, railway stations and bus stands will be allowed to move on displaying a valid ticket, while media personnel will have to display their valid ID cards. There will be no restrictions on movement of essential goods, whether interstate or intrastate. Persons who are going for COVID-19 testing or vaccination will be allowed on production of a valid ID card. Religious places can also be opened, but no visitors will be allowed. More from our correspondent.
Coronavirus infection has broken all the previous records in the national capital. Delhi is registering the highest number of cases since the outbreak of COVID-19 pandemic. Over 25,000 fresh cases were reported in Delhi and the positivity rate touched an all-time high figure of 30%. At present, city health facilities are facing shortage of several essential medical supplies. However, Delhi government has intensified its efforts to arrange the additional bed facilities, medical oxygen supplies and drugs. Delhi government has decided to directly monitor monitor the entire procurement and distribution process of remdesivir injections and medical oxygens. All drug inspectors have been directed to ensure daily monitoring of the stocks and sale of tocilizumab and favipiravir to restrict black marketing and to ensure sufficient stocks in the city. In addition, several schools, banquet halls and sport complexes have been turned into a COVID care centers. These centers will provide additional bed facilities to COVID patients. Bhupendra Singh, AIR News, Delhi.
In Himachal Pradesh, all educational institutions including schools, colleges and universities will remain closed till 1st of next month in view of sharp rise in COVID cases. The decision was taken at a meeting chaired by Chief Minister Jairam Thakur with senior officers to review the COVID-19 situation yesterday. It was also decided that faculty of schools, colleges and universities will not come for duty till the 1st of next month. The state government has also decided to put complete restrictions on transfers of field functional staff. The Uttar Pradesh government has said that there is no need of a lockdown in the state. The Allahabad High Court had yesterday directed the government to impose a lockdown in 5 cities of the state. These cities are Lucknow, Kanpur, Varanasi, Prayagraj and Gorakhpur. The UP government has conveyed that along with saving lives, the livelihood of the poor has to be protected as well. Therefore, there won't be a complete lockdown in the cities. The state government also said that people are observing voluntary shutdown at many places.
In Madhya Pradesh, corona patients will now be accommodated in army hospitals and isolation centers. Probably for the first time in the country, a state government has started using military resources to deal with the corona epidemic. More from our Bhopal correspondent.
Efforts are being made to arrange about 150 isolation beds in army hospitals in Bhopal, 100 in Jabalpur and 40 each in Sagar and Gwalior. Sudarshan Chakra Corps officials also assured to provide paramedical staff for proper care of corona patients. Chief Minister Shivraj Singh Chauhan had also discussed with the Union Defence Minister Rajnath Singh yesterday about taking help from the army. On the other hand, the state government has decided to provide a ration of 3 months free of cost to all eligible poor families of the state at once. Under this, the ration of April, May and June months will be provided in April. Meanwhile, Madhya Pradesh recorded 12,897 fresh COVID-19 cases in the past 24 hours, while 6,836 patients recovered from the infection. Sanjeev Sharma, AIR News, Bhopal.
Chhattisgarh is coming under complete lockdown from today, with 2 more districts of Sukma and Kondagaon going for a closure. With this, lockdown is effective in all the 28 districts of the state. The lockdown has started yielding the desired results in a couple of districts where it was imposed earlier. More from our Raipur correspondent.
In the last 4 days, about 47,000 corona patients have recovered. 13,834 new corona-infected patients were identified yesterday. Currently, 129,000 patients are undergoing treatment in various hospitals, COVID care centers, or in home isolation. Chief Minister Bhupesh Baghel held a virtual meeting yesterday to review the situation of corona infection in 11 districts of the state. He instructed the collectors to ensure COVID test of passengers coming from other states to Chhattisgarh. In various districts of Chhattisgarh, district-level medical oxygen control rooms have been set up to monitor the smooth supply of oxygen to COVID hospitals and COVID care centers. Vikalp Shukla, AIR News, Raipur.
The night curfew announced by the Tamil Nadu government comes into force from today. Therefore, the state-run transport corporations have rescheduled the operation of their buses. The Sundays hereafter will have full lockdown. More from our Chennai correspondent.
Besides the state bus transport firms, the Chennai Metro Rail has also rescheduled its services. In several flight routes, the patronage is said to have come down due to the prevailing pandemic situation. The state police have tightened its checking to ensure all people wear masks and follow the COVID-appropriate behavior. From the 8th of this month, more than 4 lakh cases have been registered for not wearing masks. Meanwhile, several district collectors reviewed the availability of oxygen cylinders in the public hospitals and said they have sufficient stock. Furthermore, the single-day cases of new infections have moved closer to 11,000 yesterday, which is a new high. More than 1,11,000 people have been tested in the last 24 hours. Jai Singh, AIR News, Chennai.
In a bid to check the second wave of coronavirus infection, Puducherry administration has imposed night curfew from today onwards between 10 p.m. and 5 a.m. More from our correspondent.
Puducherry Lieutenant Governor Dr. Tamilisai Soundararajan announced a night curfew in the Union Territory beginning from today. LG said that the beach will be closed between evening 5 p.m. to 5 a.m. In hotels, customers will be allowed to sit and eat up to 8 o'clock in the evening. After that, only parcels will be allowed. Mask compliance would be strictly enforced. To ease the availability of face masks, that will be made available in selected 70 Panle milk booths also. Further, cinemas should have only 50% of seating capacity. Religious and social functions should have restricted gatherings. Moreover, for COVID patients, 2,428 beds are available, 970 with oxygen facilities and 135 beds with ventilators. 20 micro-containment zones had been identified in Volgaret Taluk. Vehicular movements, public transport and personal movement has been restricted. Police guarded both the entry and exit points of this area. Chandramohan, AR News, Puducherry.
In Ladakh, surveillance against the violation of COVID protocols and appropriate behavior has stepped up in view of the rising COVID cases. Our Leh correspondent has filed this report.
The administration has constituted Special Enforcement Squad to check the COVID National Directive Management Protocol violation. The drive to check the violation by imposing the fine of 500 rupees or a challan. Leh Police Station registered 8 separate FIR against 7 maids and 1 contractor for violation of District Disaster Management Authority Chairman COVID-19 orders. These maids and the contractor have taken the labor to Leh by air without the RT-PCR test report as mandated by the order of the district magistrate and have put many laborers in single room and in tent without provision of social distancing protocol. With Ramesh Chandra, Yangsan Dolma of AR News, Leh Ladakh.
The Gujarat government has welcomed the decision of the centre to vaccinate youth above 18 years. Thanking Prime Minister Narendra Modi for this decision, Gujarat Chief Minister Vijay Rupani has said that vaccine is an infallible weapon against novel coronavirus. More from our Ahmedabad correspondent.
Thanking the Prime Minister for the decision to vaccinate the youth above 18 years, Chief Minister Vijay Rupani said that Gujarat government will make a plan to vaccinate the youth from 1st May. He also chaired the high-level core committee meeting at Gandhinagar last evening and discussed the vaccination plan. Meanwhile, Ahmedabad Municipal Corporation has procured 1,000 oxygen cylinders from Kutch to convert the existing isolation beds into oxygen beds. Apart from these, AMC has also diverted 1,500 oxygen cylinders meant for industrial use to medical use. Gujarat government has placed the order to buy 150 new ambulances in a week time for strengthening its fights against COVID-19. Yogesh Pandya, AR News, Ahmedabad.
You are listening to the morning news on All India Radio. A reminder of the headlines before we move on. Government opens up COVID-19 vaccination for all above 18 years of age. Prime Minister Narendra Modi describes vaccine as biggest weapon against COVID, calls upon doctors to encourage patients to get vaccinated. Centre issues new guidelines about physical attendance of its officials in the wake of rising COVID cases. 6-day lockdown imposed in the national capital. Himachal Pradesh government orders closure of all educational institutions till 1st of next month. BJP not to hold big rallies and public meetings in West Bengal to prevent the spread of coronavirus infection. Centre launches Startup India Seed Fund scheme to create a robust startup ecosystem in the country. India's ambassador to China, Vikram Misri, says tendency to sweep border situation under carpet is inadvisable. India Open Badminton Tournament postponed in the wake of sudden rise in COVID cases. And Chennai Super Kings beat Rajasthan Royals by 45 runs in IPL cricket. For quick news updates round the clock, follow us on our Twitter handle @AIR News Alert.
Welcome back to the morning news on All India Radio. In the wake of COVID-19, the BJP will not hold big rallies and public meetings in West Bengal. Prime Minister Narendra Modi and other senior leaders will address small meetings in the state with maximum 500 people. In a statement, the party said all these public meetings will be held in open spaces following COVID-19 guidelines. The party has also set a target to distribute 6 crore masks and sanitizers in the state. Commerce and Industry Minister Piyush Goyal has launched the Startup India Seed Fund Scheme, SISFS. The fund aims to provide financial assistance to startups for proof of concept, prototype development, product trials, market entry and commercialization. An amount of 945 crore rupees corpus will be divided over the next 4 years for providing seed funding to eligible startups through eligible incubators across India. The scheme is expected to support an estimated 3,600 startups through 300 incubators. Speaking on the occasion, Mr. Goyal said that the SISFS will secure seed funding, inspire innovation, support transformative ideas, facilitate implementation and start startup revolution.
India's ambassador to China, Vikram Misri, has said that tendency to sweep the situation at border under the carpet and characterize it as just a minor issue and a matter of perspective is inadvisable. He said it can only take the two countries further away from a sustained solution to present difficulties and deeper into an unfulfilling stalemate. The top Indian envoy said it would tantamount to running away from the problem and in a direction opposite to that where the promise of our closer development partnership lies. Ambassador Misri was speaking at an online event between Indian think tank Indian Council of World Affairs and Chinese think tank Chinese People's Institute of Foreign Affairs, which was also addressed by Chinese ambassador to India, San Weidong, among others. Mr. Misri said both India and China agree that they should stick to the consensus between the top leaders of the two countries. However, he pointed out that equally significant consensus has been reached between the two leaders in the past as well on the importance of maintaining peace and tranquility, and it is important to stick to that consensus as well. He further said that the impact on public opinion has been particularly strong due to the violation of peace and tranquility at the LAC. India Open Badminton Tournament 2021 has been postponed in the wake of a sudden rise in COVID cases in New Delhi. The tournament was scheduled to be held at the KD Jadhav Indoor Hall in New Delhi from 11th to 16th of May. In an emergency discussion held with Badminton World Federation, BWF, Badminton Association of India, BAI, decided to postpone the upcoming Yonex Sunrise India Open 2021. BAI General Secretary Ajay Singhania said, considering the current challenges, BAI is left with no option but to announce the postponement of the tournament for the time being. The BWF World Tour Super 500 tournament was classified as one of the last few qualification tournaments for the Tokyo Olympics and had attracted top players including Kenta Momota, Victor Axelsen and several other top 10 players along with representation from 33 countries. The 2021 edition was already scheduled to be held in a biosecure bubble with no spectators and media.
Chennai Super Kings beat Rajasthan Royals by 45 runs in IPL cricket. More from our correspondent.
Rajasthan Royals capitulated from 87 for 2 to 95 for 7 to go down to Chennai Super Kings by 45 runs in Game 12 of the Indian Premier League at the Wankhede Stadium in Mumbai last night. The victory was a special one for CSK and its skipper Mahendra Singh Dhoni because on this day 13 years ago, Chennai team made its IPL debut under the same leader. In match number 13 of the IPL, the finalists of the last edition Mumbai Indians and Delhi Capitals will battle it out for a clear-cut number 2 position in the points table. While Royal Challengers Bangalore now sit at the top, Delhi are second and Mumbai are third. A big challenge for Delhi Capitals will be to adjust to the slow M.A. Chidambaram Stadium in Chennai, where they will be playing for the first time this season. In other sports news, UEFA President Alexander Ceferin has threatened to ban players from international competition after plans for a breakaway Super League competing with the Champions League sparked a furious row in European football. The move by 12 elite teams, which includes 6 from England, 3 from Italy and 3 from Spain, is seen as a project that could herald the sport's biggest shake-up in decades and make elite teams even wealthier. In addition to what will be 15 permanent teams, another 5 will qualify each year for the proposed Super League. India's Sumit Nagal lost to Frenchman Pierre-Hugues Herbert 5-7-0-6 in the opening round of the ATP 500 Barcelona Open last evening. Earlier, Nagal, ranked 135th in the world, had defeated Italy's Thomas Fabiano 7-6-1, 6-3 to enter the main draw. Sports Desk, All India Radio.
In some international news, Miguel Diaz-Canel will succeed Raul Castro as the Cuban Communist Party's first secretary, the most powerful position on the island. He is the first person without the surname Castro to run Cuba since the 1959 revolution. Diaz-Canel is seen as loyal to the Castros and their economic model. On Friday, Raul Castro announced that he would step down from the key position of the party and hand over the leadership to a younger generation. At 60, Diaz-Canel is almost 30 years younger than his predecessor and will now hold Cuba's 2 most important positions, head of the party and president of the state. 89-year-old Castro had been in the post since 2011 when he took over from his older brother Fidel Castro. An electrical engineer by training, Diaz-Canel has been a party functionary for most of his life. He was born in Villa Clara, the province where Che Guevara broke the will of Fulgencio Batista's troops, bringing about the revolution.
Now let us take a look at the weather forecast for today. In Jammu, there will be generally cloudy sky with light rain. Minimum temperature was 18 degrees Celsius, rising up to maximum 31 degrees. In Srinagar, the minimum temperature was 8 degrees and is expected to touch maximum of 20 degrees today. The city will have generally cloudy sky. Leh in Ladakh will have partly cloudy sky, with minimum temperature recorded at 1 degree, reaching up to 10 degrees by afternoon. In Gilgit, the temperature is hovering between 10 to 20 degrees Celsius today, with generally cloudy sky towards afternoon or evening. In Muzaffarabad, it will have mainly clear sky. Minimum temperature was 12 degrees, while maximum will go up to 25 degrees Celsius. Chandigarh will have generally cloudy sky with forecast of 1 or 2 spells of rain or thunder showers. Minimum temperature was 19 and maximum would be around 32 degrees Celsius. National capital Delhi is likely to have dust storm or thunderstorm today. Mumbai, there is a forecast of mainly clear sky with minimum temperature recorded at 24 degrees Celsius and maximum at 34 degrees.
And now an overview of today's newspapers. Vaccine for all above 18 from May 1 is the top front page headline in all the dailies today. The Tribune reports, with the government announcing a liberalized inoculation policy, states private hospitals to procure directly from makers. A headline in the Hindu quoting the ICMR says, second wave is not more lethal. Those above 60 are still most at risk. The Economic Times observes 4.5 thousand crore rupees advance payment for Serum Institute, Bharat Biotech, as Finance Minister relaxes rules to allow release of payment without bank guarantee. With rising COVID cases in the city, summer vacation for all Delhi schools to begin today, reports the Indian Express. And finally, in a Wright brothers moment, achieving the first powered controlled flight by an aircraft over the surface of another planet, Hindustan Times writes, NASA's Ingenuity chopper performs first flight from Mars, while the Times of India mentions about its Desi link under the headline, Historic Mars Helicopter Flight has key Desi link.
And now, before we end the bulletin, the headlines once again. Government opens up COVID-19 vaccination for all above 18 years of age. Prime Minister Narendra Modi describes vaccine as biggest weapon against corona, calls upon doctors to encourage patients to get vaccinated. Centre issues new guidelines about physical attendance of its officials in the wake of rising COVID cases. 6-day lockdown imposed in the national capital. Himachal Pradesh government orders closure of all educational institutions till 1st of next month. BJP not to hold big rallies and public meetings in West Bengal to prevent the spread of coronavirus infection. Centre launches Startup India Seed Fund scheme to create a robust startup ecosystem in the country. India's ambassador to China, Vikram Misri, says tendency to sweep border situation under carpet is inadvisable. India Open Badminton Tournament postponed in the wake of sudden rise in corona cases. And Chennai Super Kings beat Rajasthan Royals by 45 runs in IPL cricket. And with that, we end the morning news. Have a nice day.